Hello, I hope everybody had a good Labor Day weekend. Today we'll be talking about a day in the life of theater, but I've kind of remodified this chapter to just be like key people in the theater industry that you might not hear a lot about. All right, starting off. Theater is a hybrid art. More often than not, it is brought to you by an ensemble or dozens of artists and technicians. They join together to make it appear as if the performance were the product of a single creative mind. Vocab time. Ghost light. A single light bulb mounted on a portable pole. The reason why we have ghost lights, you turn it at the end of the night, you shut down the theater and you turn everything off. And theaters are really dark. They're pitch black. So the one light that you leave on is the ghost light. So the next time you come in, because there's no windows in the theater, you have a light so you don't trip anywhere. And it's a superstition thing as well. So one area of the theater is the costume shop. This is where costumes are made. People who work in the costume shop do the laundry from each performance. Normally laundry is done every night after the show, not like the full costume. Sometimes when it's borrowed pieces or like really fancy dresses, you have to dry clean them, and you actually use vodka spray because vodka disinfects. You water down some vodka and then you just kind of spray the costumes to kind of like keep it clean, but you wash socks and trousers and undershirts and things like that every night after a performance because actors get sweaty, and the lights that shine on stage make it like 10 to 20 degrees hotter. All right, some people in the costume shop include drapers. They study the costume designer's renderings and find ways to cut the fabric into patterns that realize the design. We have stitchers. They sew fabric patterns together to create the full costume. And then here's another vocab term for you, rehearsal costumes, which are temporary costumes used in rehearsal so actors can get a feel of what they'll be wearing. This is really important when you have actors in corsets on stage. You want them to be in a corset in rehearsal because what if you rehearse them bending over or something, and then the woman who plays a character can't bend over because the corset is choking her? Or if you have certain types of shoes, if you have really high heels or different like dress shoes, you want your actors to start wearing them early because they can get used to it, because sometimes you can't do all of the same movements. And then another good example is like if you're wearing a hoop skirt, you want to know how you can move in that. So there's the literary manager. Their job is reading and evaluating new scripts for the season. The literary manager will team up with the artistic director and maybe the managing director. We'll learn about who those people are in just a second. And like they all read scripts and discuss kind of what shows they might want to do for a season. And a season is your block of plays that your theater company decides to do for like a season would be like you do shows from January to August or something, and then that's your season. And all companies have different seasons. So like it's your time period. Let's say you put in 6 plays, you guys discuss what plays you'd want. And sometimes you have a literary lit committee, which I've been a part of a couple times, and you just read through a lot of scripts and just discuss which ones you kind of want to do. But a literary manager is the one that goes out and finds them and is like, here, these might be good for you or good for us to produce. You have the producer or producing director. This is someone who is financially backs the theater or orchestrates funding through grant money and ticket sales. A lot of times a managing director is also the person who would write grants to the government or somebody so they can get funding for the season. You have the dramaturg, and it's kind of hard to define what a dramaturg is. Not all theater companies even use dramaturgs, but I'm going to try to break down what they do. So they're part literary manager, which means they read scripts, they help with season selection, they're advisor to all of the departments. And when I mean they are advisors to all of departments, it's kind of like you are somebody who reads a lot about the play, and so you know everything that kind of goes into it. So if it's a play that's set in Shakespeare time, and you are an expert, you need to be an expert of that time period when you do the play. If a prop person comes to you and is like, hey, I need to know what kind of sword we'd use. They would probably know and be able to give you like an article to read so you would know what to use. They help with new play development. If your theater company decides to commission plays, a lot of time a dramaturg will help the playwright develop the play from the ground up, and they'll be the kind of like a talking somebody who they can bounce ideas off of. And they help choose different adaptations and translations in plays. So a lot of plays are they're not in English, and so the dramaturg helps you decide what version you want to choose, because translations are all slightly different. So depending on who translated the play over, if it's like a Russian play like Anton Chekhov, some, and I've read a couple different ones, some of them can be written by somebody who's a little bit more bouncy and modern, and so they might choose words that are more not as hard to understand than somebody who's a huge like scholarly person, and they might choose things that are a little bit more difficult for people to understand. So it all depends on who does it. Then they're production dramaturgy, which is what a dramaturg does on a production. They help research. They create something called an actor packet, which is a packet full of information that might be interesting to the actors. So it's about maybe the time period. If the play is written about real life people, they'll give you like a little packet which will say information about the real people. All right, hello. Different day, different look. So with the dramaturg, we also have audience-facing content, which means in you have a program, and there's usually a note from the dramaturg, which kind of tells you a little bit about the time and gives you a little bit preface about what the play is about, maybe a bit about the playwright, and they help you kind of understand that. You should always read the notes in the program. And then a lot of times they have something called a lobby display, which will show you some of the design pictures and a lot of the information which you might have not known about the play, and you can go read it before the play, and it will help you get to know the play better. All right. In rehearsal, they're the eye of the audience, and they're the keeper of the story. So they want to just keep the play on track and protect the story as well as they can. We have the artistic director. They are in charge of the overall creative vision or goal of the ensemble. The artistic director will often choose which plays to produce, who will direct them, and who will design them in some cases. Usually the production manager chooses who designs them, but the artistic director has the last say on everything. And the best way to describe it is you kind of think of a director as somebody having charge of the play or the movie or whatever you're doing. The artistic director is the person who has like the whole charge of like the whole season. So I explained that a season is the plays you pick to do for the time that you run it. And they will be like, these things make sense together. I'm trying to get this message across, and they can actually give the director of the play notes. So they're just there to keep everything overall together. All right, next we have the stage manager. The stage manager not only runs the show during the performance, but also helps the director throughout the rehearsal process by taking notes, recording, blocking, scheduling rehearsals, and assisting in auditions. And then I have a couple fun pictures, and I'm a stage manager, so this is what I do. And then there's going to be a little video clip which will help you. This guy explains it really well about what really goes into it.
Relatively overlooked, and honestly, if you're doing the job well, nobody knows you're there. And that is the role of the stage manager. What is a stage manager? What do they do? According to Wikipedia, which honestly has one of the best definitions for it, stage management is the practice of organizing and coordinating a theatrical production. It encompasses a variety of activities, including organizing the production and coordinating communications between various personnel, e.g., between the director and backstage crew or actors and production management. A stage manager is one who has overall responsibility for stage management and the smooth execution of a production. So that's the definition, the basic definition, a decent definition of a stage manager. So I've been lucky or unlucky enough to have worked in both small and larger venues for theater as a stage manager. I'm going to take you through kind of exactly what a stage manager does each step of the way. They start by getting hired, like any job. You got to go in, interview, get hired. Sometimes they're brought on by the director, sometimes the producer. After you're hired, before the first rehearsal, you take about a week to get yourself organized. That's your prep week. What you're starting to prep is this. This is your Bible. This is your everything. Their official title for this is the prompt book. This book basically holds the entire show, and it's the stage manager's job to compile this book. In that book is the script, blocking, notes on every part of the production. Your first week is organizing that, putting together the entire rehearsal schedule, and getting all the supplies you need. Then the rehearsals start. Their job before rehearsal starts, before each rehearsal starts, is to set up the room. So they've talked to the director, they know exactly what's going to be going on that day in rehearsal, what the director wants to cover. Honestly, I usually give myself an hour because I like to take my time. I don't like to feel rushed. Then the rehearsal starts. Their main job, they have a couple main jobs, is to listen to everything that happens and write everything down. Do they take notes on blocking, which is where the actors are going on the stage? Taking notes on props. Sometimes props get cut, sometimes set pieces get cut, and that happens during rehearsals. On a more administrative side, they're keeping time. It is the stage manager's job to know when it's time for break, how long that break is, and to time that break and call everybody back to start right when that break ends, to make sure that they're letting the director know how soon those breaks are coming up, so they can wrap something up so you're not cutting them off mid-sentence. They get really annoyed when you do that, so don't. After the rehearsal, their job is to clean everything up, put everything away, closing down all the lights. After everything's cleaned up, they get to go home and then they get to make a report of what happened in rehearsal, so they can let the producers, the director, the designers know everything that happened. So all those notes they took, all that goes into the rehearsal report, as well as actors being late, actors being on time, when breaks were taken, took, son of a took. What happened in rehearsal, what was expected to happen, and what actually did happen in that rehearsal, so that everyone knows where everyone is. Communication is huge. They're that bridge between the director and the designers, the director and the producer and the designers, the producer and the actors. It's like all communication funnels through the stage manager here, from all these people up here, funneling down and then funneling back out. It's a lot of responsibility. But if you're well organized, all that is a piece of cake. And that's basically the rehearsal process. Then you get into tech, which is when the main rehearsals end, right before the show starts, you add in all of the technical elements. And it's the stage manager's job to coordinate all of that. Not only does the stage manager have to take all of those notes that they took before, they're still keeping time. And on top of that, they're getting cues from all of the designers, and they are starting to run the show. So now we've gone through the rehearsals, we've taken all of those notes, we've gone through tech, we've added in all of the technical elements. Now we get to the shows. The stage manager gets there early. Again, they create a sign-in sheet for all the actors and for all their technicians. You have to coordinate with the house manager when the audience is coming in. You have to let the actors know and the crew know how long it is before the start. Generally, you give them a half an hour warning, then a 15-minute warning, then a 10-minute, then a 5-minute, and then you call places, and it's time to start the show. The stage manager, during the show, is to sit in the booth and to call all the cues. They're telling sound when to hit the sound cues, lights when to hit the lights, things flying in and out on stage. They're telling them when to go. And that's why the stage manager is so important. They are the pinnacle. They are starting everything. Everything is running through them. And not only that, they need to know what's happening on backstage. They've given a standby for the lights, and then everything breaks. Something happens backstage. There's a loud crash. The stage manager needs to know what's going on. They have to think on their feet. They have to problem solve on their feet, thinking of plan B, plan C, plan D. You're going to get up to like a plan Y sometimes. It's stressful. It's stressing me out just talking about it. I don't know how I did it for 5 years. Then the curtain closes, breathe a sigh of relief. They shut down, they help clean up, make sure that everything's put away. And once everything is locked down, they get to go home and they get to write another report on the performance. Attendance issues, tech issues, anything that broke, just like the rehearsal reports. The performance reports are just as important. To sum all of that up, the stage manager's job is basically the technical running of a show from start of rehearsals to closing night. They are there to make sure that everything is running smoothly and to run everything smoothly. It takes a very organized person, someone who thrives on taking chaos and making it streamlined. So that about sums up what a stage manager is, what they do, and why they're so important to a show, and why they're in that playbill. So if you like that,